Hey guys, this is AJYT Abbott, and welcome to my 21 Marvel movie ranking video, worst to best. So I'm going to be ranking all of the MCU movies, worst to best, including Captain Marvel. If you don't want spoilers for this video or these movies, then get off now. Alright, so Thor the Dark World is last. I've rewatched it. There's just nothing redeeming about it. The Dark Elf villain Malekith is awful. And frankly, I just think this is a really boring MCU movie when Marvel movies are supposed to be, upbeat, intense, and, epic. And this one's just boring. So at number 20 is Iron Man 2. There is some redeeming qualities in this movie. Whiplash is a cool villain, only I just wish, you have all that technology, and what do? You make whips. What the heck, man? He teams up with this other guy that, doesn't like Tony. They make some good villains, sort of. The final battle with War Machine is great, and, it's a solid movie. At number 19 is The Incredible Hulk. I actually really do like this movie. I don't know why it gets a lot of the hate it does get. I personally like Edward Norton far more than Mark Ruffalo. The final battle is one that, is really awesome, and I don't think people have really seen before from superhero movies, which was great. And this was just a solid movie, and, I wouldn't have minded if they just had Edward Norton around for a while. At number 18 is Iron Man 3. This is another one that it's an alright movie. I don't really have that much against it, only I wish they had just not disappointed me and some other fans with the Mandarin, who turned out to be just such a lame dude that was just sitting alone sitting in his house just eating chips and just being stupid, man. They just disappointed everyone. But I do like some of the story. I was having flashbacks to Avengers. 17 is going to be Thor. This is a good movie when, obviously Chris Hemsworth or Tom Hiddleston is on screen. There are some slow moments, the love story, the fish out of water stuff is great. Some of it isn't, however. The final battle on the Rainbow Bridge is good. It's weakened because, Thor or Loki falling into the portal is just revealed in Avengers 2. Oh yeah, he's okay. But yeah. Number 16 is going to be Ant-Man. I know, this is crazy. I rewatched Ant-Man, and I realized I do like Age of Ultron a tad bit more than this movie. The final battle with the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff is really great. I love Cassie Lang. I love, Evangeline Lilly and Michael Douglas in this film, and Michael Pena. Paul Rudd does a fantastic job as Ant-Man. Yellow Jacket is actually, while not being the most compelling and, really cool and interesting villains, is a very different and, new take on a villain in the MCU. And this was a new take on a movie in the MCU. And number 15 is going to be Avengers Age of Ultron. I really do enjoy this movie. I rewatch it frequently. It's a fun, ride. Ultron is a very cool and compelling villain. He is weakened by his humor a little bit. He is a little bit too humorous to be doing these, mass murdering sprees. Of course, you have the death at the end of Quicksilver, which upset people, and a little bit of me. The epic Hulk and Hulkbuster fight. Vision being introduced, Scar being awesome. This is just a very good movie. It's the weakest of the Avengers, but still good. At number 14 is Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, what I really like about this movie is it had a certain tone to it where you feel like it's a superhero movie, but you also feel like it's a war movie. This is very much a war movie, where, you see Steve Rogers go from a tiny little weakling, sort of, who gets beat up in alleyways and just relying on his pal Bucky Barnes, to going to this absolute powerhouse super soldier, known as Captain America. And I love the little scenes with him and Peggy Carter. The final scene where he meets Nick Fury and realizes he's been frozen all this time. It's a great movie for the MCU. Now, at number 13 is Captain Marvel. I enjoyed this movie. It gets weakened a little bit by being an origin story, of course. The third act upset people, but I actually really liked it. I loved seeing the de-aging of Nick Fury and Phil Coulson. I thought that was very well done. And I love her. I love her origin story. Really, I do. And some of the work that goes into this movie, like the visual effects and everything, her flying around in space. The helmet did look a little bit weird with the afro, but that was my only problem with it, really. The scrolls are cool. The fight on the subway, whether you're talking about the cat, Goose the cat, which was awesome. The post-credit scene is really cool. And I just really enjoyed this movie, and I would see it again in theaters. And I think this was a perfect movie to get us introduced to Carol Danvers and get us hyped for her appearance in Endgame. So at number 12 is going to be Iron Man. Iron Man has been in the MCU for 10 years. He's been in there for the entire MCU. This was the first movie in the MCU. And while some people see that as a weakness, I see that as a mega strength, because people will always go back to this one when marathoning. And who is going to be the first hero that you think of when you think of the MCU? Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. He's an eye catcher in the acting world now because of this movie. The origin story of Tony Stark as Iron Man was great. I love the final scene where he, reveals that he's Iron Man in the speech. The Nick Fury after credits scene. Obadiah Stane serves as a great villain, played by Jeff Bridges. This is a solid movie. At number 11 is going to be Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now, while this being a politic thriller, I find this movie very compelling, action-packed, awesome, and just filled of not laughs, but just intenseness as we see Bucky Barnes go from this guy that always looked out for Steve in the beginning of the Captain America franchise to this assassin, this cold-blooded assassin that's working for Hydra that gets brainwashed and fighting Steve. And, I love that Black Widow and Falcon gets introduced in this movie, and Black Widow has, more of a prominent role, and so does Nick Fury. The elevator fight. What more do I have to say to prove that Captain America: The Winter Soldier, while being a political thriller, is an awesome MCU film? Coming in at number 10 is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I just have a lot of fun rewatching this movie. All the great characters from, Quill, Gamora, Rocket, Groot, Yondu, Mantis, all getting some great moments. Especially Yondu with his final send-off and his sacrifice for Quill. The escape from the Ravager ship is really awesome. And who can forget? Taserface! It's metaphorical! I also like Kurt Russell as Ego in this movie. I thought he was a very good villain. And, by the end of the movie, you really, really wanted to see him die. So that's why Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is not only one of the best MCU movies, but is one of the most comedic and fun-loving family films in the MCU. Coming in at number 9 is the original Guardians of the Galaxy. I love how James Gunn took a random idea, and it was risky for the MCU at this time because, we had just gotten announced of Age of Ultron and Ant-Man coming up. We're just coming off of Winter Soldier, and Iron Man 3 and stuff. James Gunn took a risk and absolutely succeeded with this movie, introducing this group of characters that people will love, and by the end of the movie they have people crying over a talking tree, which is insane. I also love that this is basically the start of this sort of expansion into the space section of the MCU, and adventuring more into space. And that's why this is at number 9. So at number 8 is going to be Doctor Strange. While the villain in this movie is very, very weak, and Caecilius, there are some very, very cool things in this movie from the Ancient Ones, basically death send-off, like we don't get to choose our time. That was very emotional. Benedict Cumberbatch plays Doctor Strange awesomely. Benedict Wong plays Wong fantastically. Also, Baron Mordo. This introduces Baron Mordo, who's probably going to be our villain for Doctor Strange 2. This is just a very influential movie in the MCU because it introduces us to the magic and the dark realm, which is going to be pretty important probably in the future of the MCU, which is why Doctor Strange is a very influential, fun, and visually pleasing movie in the MCU. And number 7 is Spider-Man Homecoming. They took the character of Peter Parker right off the comic book pages, and got the perfect actor. Tom Holland does a fantastic job as Spider-Man, and Peter Parker in this movie. I especially love Michael Keaton as the Vulture. Zendaya as MJ, who's look like gonna be getting some, a bigger sort of story in Far From Home. Even the girl that plays Liz was great. Ned is awesome. We have some Happy in there. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man mixed in there, being sort of like Peter's mentor. There's some really great scenes in this from the final battle is pretty great. The monument where he saves everybody from the elevator shaft. Just the prom pickup scene where they reveal that Michael Keaton is Liz's dad was great, which is why Spider-Man Homecoming is a great MCU film. At number 6 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really enjoyed this movie because it expands more onto the quantum realm, which will probably play a key part in Avengers Endgame. And as we know, at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, spoiler alert. Well, I already gave one at the beginning of the video, but still, spoiler alert. The Wasp, Hank Pym, and Janet Van Dyne, they all die. They all die, which is absolutely heartbreaking for Scott because now he's stuck in the quantum realm. But I love how this movie was basically the first film was a heist, but this is sort of, I've heard this term, like a MacGuffin movie where they're all chasing after this one thing. They're chasing after the lab, which was great. Louise is awesome. Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, Michael Pena, awesome. Black Panther coming in at number 5, breaking into the top 5. They decided to take in Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan, Letitia Wright, Danai Gurira, Lupita Nyong'o, and they just made an absolutely fantastic cast. Oh, and Winston Duke, of course, M'Baku. And they just made an absolutely fantastic cast. Ryan Coogler does a fantastic job as the director in this one. This movie almost won an Oscar, which is absolutely insane. Not in a shocking way. I think it didn't. Okay, I would be okay if it won, kind of. But it did at least deserve a nomination. Maybe not a win, but a nomination. And this is just such a vibrant movie about, a king that's trying to do right while also trying to right the wrongs that Eric Killmonger does. Coming in at number 4 is the original Avengers. This is going to be controversial. It always is, because we all know the movie I have before this may not be better than the Avengers in your opinion, but this is my opinion. Maybe if I watch Avengers a little bit more and the movie before this one, or the movie on top of this one a little bit more, I'll change my mind. But the Avengers is still a wild ride, and this still delivers one of the absolute most crowd-pleasing endings to any, not only Marvel movie, but any movie, period. With the epic New York battle, we have Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. This is the first movie with Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, which was great to see. I love the part where he's like, I'm always angry. The Chitauri battle, of course, in New York. Highlight of the movie. Hulk and Thor fighting. Oh man, this is just a great movie. At number 3 is going to be Thor Ragnarok. This is an absolutely amazing film. Wow. This is just one of the most funniest movies in the MCU. Waititi came in as director, and absolutely flipped Thor on his head, fixed what was made wrong in the first two Thor movies, while also killing off, Zachary Levi's character and the other two characters that were in Thor: The Dark World, and completing writing out Lady Sif, which I didn't like that much, but this is still a fun, awesome, hilarious movie. We have some Jeff Goldblum in there. Mark Ruffalo's there as the Hulk, obviously. Valkyrie with Tessa Thompson. Korg. Oh man, this is just one of the best, funniest movies in the MCU. At number 2 is going to be Captain America Civil War. I absolutely had no idea going into this what the background was on Civil War. I just thought it was going to be a very epic movie with Iron Man and Captain America, but we got that. But what we also got was the splitting apart of the Avengers, a very dramatic chain of events that led up to the splitting apart of the Avengers. One half agreeing with Cap on the Sokovia Accords, and one half agreeing with Tony on the Sokovia Accords. Nobody could agree all the same. It was split up into two sides. It was an epic battle. This is one of the only MCU movies where the villain actually wins. Baron Zemo, this guy that was in Sokovia, he gets his revenge on the Avengers by splitting them apart, and then when they finally do get back together and apologize and, team up, they just get split apart again as Zemo shows Tony the footage of Bucky killing his parents, and Cap reveals that he knew, which is just so heartbreaking because Cap wants to fight for Bucky. The airport battle in this movie is absolutely epic. The beginning with Crossbones is very heartbreaking, with Scarlet Witch accidentally killing a ton of people and her feeling bad the whole movie. She got a ton of, really good attention in this movie. Also, Vision did. Ant-Man's in there. This is the first MCU movie with Spider-Man, which is great. This is just a very influential and important movie. But, of course, at number 1 is going to be Avengers Infinity War. This is possibly the most hyped up movie for me of 2018. At least until I saw Bohemian Rhapsody, this was my favorite movie of 2018. Just by a hair, Bohemian Rhapsody is better. But this is an absolute powerhouse of a movie. There is shock, there is heartbreak, there is hilarious jokes in Drax. The CGI with Thanos, Josh Brolin did a fantastic job coming off of Deadpool 2 as Cable and then killing it as Thanos. Black Panther, some of the other characters, while they didn't have that many great moments, were still in the background fighting, contributing. The beginning of the movie establishes Thanos as a really powerful villain as he takes down the Hulk and kills off two of our really well-known characters from the Thor franchise, Heimdall and Loki, and then proceeds to snap, beat all of our Avengers to a pulp, stab Iron Man, knock out Captain America, and just absolutely wreck everybody in Wakanda, snap his fingers, and wipe out all half of the Earth's population and half of the Avengers, including Spider-Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and a few other ones. This is an influential film in the MCU, and this is another movie that obviously is really important for Endgame because, we keep wondering, how are they going to reset what happened in this movie? We'll have to find out in Endgame, but Avengers Infinity War is my favorite MCU film. So I want to thank you all very much for watching. This was a very fun video for me to do. I always love doing these ranking videos, especially for the MCU. So thank you all very much for watching. Leave your comment down below what movies you like from the MCU, and goodbye.